We're accused of this all the time. We're accused that it causes toxic perfectionism. Why? Because the gospel of Jesus Christ expects a lot of people, and so maybe you'd kind of intuitively think, well, isn't it easier to just not care about anything and let go?
It's our fault. We cause it, that religion is harmful when indeed it's actually helpful. It needs to go, and it needs to be wholesale rejected, and it seems like that's what you're doing.
And the accusation that the gospel of Jesus Christ causes mental illness.
Stop it. Get some help.
Is a very serious allegation to lobby at the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. So, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have toxic perfections. They're perfectionists. They're OCD. They're scrupulous. And the church teaches you this.
Okay, they will go so far out of their way only to just say that it's got to be the church's fault.
Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are the most religious people in America. The more religious you are, and if you're a Latter-day Saint, you are far less likely to have symptoms associated with toxic perfectionism. Debunked.
Wow. Before we go any farther, I want to give a big shout out to a very generous viewer of the program, Stripling Boomer, he calls himself, or she calls himself, gave us a gift off the Amazon wish list that says, pencils are retro, but this sharpener is futuristic. Indeed, we needed a new sharpener for our pencils that we use to write most of our show notes here around the studio. And my old one broke here, as you can see, but we got this handy dandy new one. Thank you very much, Stripling Boomer. Let's continue. Hey guys, just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Go and Do Travel's 2025 Wave Makers LDS podcaster cruise. You want to hang out with Jacob Hansen, Jasmine Rappley, Dave Butler, and yours truly in the Mexican Riviera between November 15th and November 22nd. Make sure you check out the links in the description and use the coupon code WARDRadio10. Now back to the video. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Ward Radio. I'm your host, Cardon Ellis. Today I'm joined in the studio via Zoom by Jonah Barnes, the Associate Professor of All Things Apocryphal. And we're going to be debunking a very common claim that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or membership therein amongst the Mormons, leads to toxic perfectionism. It's kind of one of those repeated tropes and sound bites, especially amongst kind of like the cry bully crowd, that we create, quote, a culture of toxic perfectionism. However, consistent with, I believe it's anti-Mormon rule 7 and 12, there's always a veneer of academia and lacks the verifiability thereof. And then they always accuse you of that which they are guilty of, woefully guilty of themselves. The mentally ill cry bullies are saying that we're the baddies. Meanwhile, you say there's this super interesting study that just came out that actually provides not a counterpoint, but evidence, proof, whatever word you want to choose, that being a member of our church actually makes you less toxically perfect? Is this just kind of like wordplay that you came up with, Jonah, or just let's dive right in. Tell us what's going on.
A mix between Jonah and Broseph is Joseph. That's actually where the name Joseph comes from. Actually,
yes, exactly.
Is an abbreviation of Jonah Broseph, and it's just shortened to Joseph.
I dig, my man. Yeah. I dig.
No, actually, so what we're bringing to the table now is data. Imagine that. Imagine actual data in the name-calling mudslinging match that is, or rather the one-sided mudslinging match that is anti-Mormons saying that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have toxic perfections. They're perfectionists. They're OCD. They're scrupulous. And the church teaches you this, and it makes them neurotic. And that's why they're all on mental, antidepressant drugs and things like that, right? Well,
and by the way, that's not to besmirch anybody that actually does have a legitimate problem. I've known people very, very close to me that have had crippling OCD, and scrupulosity is basically the religious manifestation thereof. And we're not saying that it does not exist, and we're not saying that people cannot fall victim to it, and that we are not indeed very vulnerable tabernacles of clay, but like this incessant trope that it's our fault, we cause it, that religion is harmful when indeed it's actually helpful. Just it needs to go, and it needs to be wholesale rejected, and it seems like that's what you're doing. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had to put that disclaimer in there.
No, you're totally right. Look, anybody who suffers from mental health disorders knows that they're very serious. That they're very serious. And the accusation that the gospel of Jesus Christ causes mental illness is a very serious allegation to lobby at the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. So one guy, Professor Justin Dyer, who's an education professor at Brigham Young University, said, there's got to be a way to measure this. And so he went, and now if Dr. Dyer, if you're listening to this, I'm going to butcher this, okay? Yeah. I was trying to sift through the research and figure out how you did this. So what he did is he looked at existing research, okay? Existing research that people had done to categorize people by religiosity and these things, and to ask them, as far as I can tell, the methodology that they use is they don't ask people, hey, are you mentally ill? They don't do that. They say, do you exhibit this? How do you feel about that? They're testing the symptoms of scrupulosity and obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD.
Okay,
so they're not asking them if they have it or anything. They're just asking about the symptoms, and then they're saying if you score higher or lower on this, because it's a spectrum, then you are, you're 8 out of 10, or you're 6 out of 10 for scrupulosity or for this or whatever. And he took these existing data sets, and he said, well, I'm going to match these against other existing data sets. And he came up with this wonderful study that he published in BYU Studies. And we're going to look at it in a second. But first, we just want to make sure that, well, I don't know if you brought up the Reddit post, which talks about the culture of toxic perfectionism. Okay, well, this is what you put in this. I just have everything you put in the Discord right here. So here's the very, very first one, so that we can't be accused of not bringing the receipts, right? Right.
So,
we're accused of this all the time. We're accused that it causes toxic perfectionism. Why? Because the gospel of Jesus Christ expects a lot of people, and so maybe you'd kind of intuitively think, well, isn't it easier to just not care about anything and let go? And won't that be good for your mental health?
I can't read these without getting frustrated. Look at this. I was at a social work conference in Utah last week. The speaker was talking about the fact that Utah is the 6th highest suicide rate in the country, when talking about possible explanations for why Utah's rate is so high, except for the obvious ones that they don't want to accept because they constantly do not indict the church. Only answers they will ever accept are the ones that indict the church. They will go around their palm and the back of their hand to spite their thumb, or whatever that phrase is. Okay. Yeah. They will go so far out of their way only to just say that it's got to be the church's fault. But anyway, she said something profound. She said one of the primary reasons is that, quote, we live in a culture of toxic perfectionism.
Yes.
And then
that's the authority.
This person continues by saying, my reason for leaving was historical, but my wife's reason was mainly this exact thing, toxic perfectionism, which is then defined socially as constantly feeling like you're not doing enough, feeling like you should hide your flaws, doubts, and insecurities. I'm sorry, did you never go to testimony meeting where it's like a giant group hug? Like, it's one step away from a super awkward, what do you call those things? When people get around and say, like, hi, my name's Dale, and I'm a blank addict.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Not a struggle session. Support group. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like one step away from like an awkward support group, right?
Yeah.
And then so you look perfect like everyone else. I've never looked around in a ward and thought, boy, everybody here is perfect. Holy smoke. But then again, I mean, I go to church in Los Angeles. I just constantly walk around and like think, man, these people are crazy. But that's the best part about it.
I think some of it might come from, I don't know what this effect is. Somebody in the comments will know. But when you ask little children to draw a house, they'll all draw the same house.
Really?
Right? Even if it's a house that actually doesn't exist, that they've never seen, that they've never lived in, it'll be the same kind of block, roof, chimney,
almost
window,
like an
tree.
icon on a map. Yeah.
Yeah, what it is. It's an archetype. It's this kind of, we all kind of say, oh yeah, that's what a house looks like, when really you've never seen a house that looks like that. But everybody just kind of has it in their subconscious. That Carl Jung talked about these archetypes, right? It's like, for some reason, we have this archetype in our brains that says that going to church and striving to be good and all these things must equate to higher scrupulosity and mental illness. That we just kind of assume, it's just kind of intuitive. We think that that must be it. It sounds so natural. It sounds so logical, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it's a soundbite that is swallowed easily. And I just also want to make sure that we're really defining the terms here, and we're letting them define them really fast. I mean, it may be, something that has the veneer of academia but lacks the verifiability thereof. But still, let's let them choose. Let's let them choose the definition, right? And
some
then
lady at a conference, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's totally yeah."
Well, who knows? Maybe the lady had her PhD for all we know. But anyway, here's the third definition. You are a savage, bro. You are an absolute savage. Okay, so here's the third definition: is receiving constant shaming for what thoughts you have, what you wear, what you drink, etc. It's no wonder that mental health is such a significant issue in this culture of toxic perfectionism. Well, we did do a recent episode where the Women of Ward Radio did talk about loving wearing garments, but also being frustrated because there's social expectations thereof. I think that's a far cry from utter shaming. In fact, if anything, many of them have said we need to bring back a little bit more shame to the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got a little bit crazy out there. In case you haven't been,
those people that you're like, yeah, I could use some shame over here.
It's gotten a little bit dicey, right? So anyway, let's just assume and give everybody grace here, and the biggest benefit of the doubt that we can. Finally, they say it's no wonder the mental health is such a significant issue in this culture of toxic perfectionism. Or maybe it's actually that the church helps bolster against the toxic perfectionism that is created by consumerism, by self-centeredness, by a lack of service, and that as you actually dive deeper into most, at least Abrahamic faiths, which focus on selflessness, eschewing consumerism, in fact, in adopting sacrifice, so much so that the Jews were so anti-consumerist, they would sacrifice the firstborn of their flocks, like the greatest of their actual consumer goods, right? So can you
imagine burning your iPhone on an altar?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? The sacrifice?
Your first one too. And then you had to get the refurbished one from the cheap insurance company. And you're constantly working with the refurbished one that some Assyrian had 2 years ago after you just burned your fresh iPhone 15, That'd be horrible, bro. So, receiving constant shame about what you drink, etc. It's no wonder the mental health is such a significant issue in this culture of toxic perfectionism, or maybe actually the erosion of church attendance and participation is actually the cause of more toxic perfectionism, because you have less of a protection, less cartilage in the joints against the inflammation of the outside world, right?
Wow.
Hey guys, we're going to press pause just for 1 second to remind you guys this episode is also sponsored by scripturenotes.com, the coolest way of reading your scriptures online. If you guys want a free 14-day trial, please visit scripturenotes.com. Also, mention us in the checkout for a small discount. Links will be in the description. Roll tape.
Wow, what a wonderful metaphor. Well, the great news is that we don't have to wonder.
Oh.
That's the great news, is that we actually have data.
Really?
Everything you said sounds perfectly logical. But we don't have to wonder, because Dr. Dyer went out and gathered the receipts.
Okay.
So in this study about religion and perfectionism, Dr. Dyer takes us through kind of the research that's been done before.
Okay.
And anybody can see this at BYU Studies, BYUstudies.byu.edu.
Okay, rock on.
The article, Michael A. Goodman, I think, was the other researcher, Michael A. Goodman. And they go through what's been done before, and then they simply reveal the stratification. What they do is they're measuring two spectrums, two scales. I think it's obsessive compulsive and scrupulosity. And you can read about their methodologies if you'd like in the crosstabs, but those are the different scales that they measure, and they measure people on these, and then they say, okay, now how religious are you, and what denomination do you fit in?
Wow.
And the results are in this chart here. I put in the Discord. Cardon,
Okay, got it.
I thought this was fascinating. Starting at the very top, so to read this chart, you have of the two measures that are highly associated with mental health problems, obsessive compulsive disorder and scrupulosity. If you score high on both, then you're dark blue on the right, high. That's that right, the blue part of the row. If you're low, then it's the far left light blue, low on both. So if you're low on both, you're low. If you're higher and higher and higher on those two scales, kind of add them together. And so so you can see that former other religions are actually the highest on both obsessive compulsive symptoms and scrupulosity.
Interesting.
The highest are former Latter-day Saints.
Oh no, that's devastating.
Yeah, brutal.
That is so bad. So like literally that's a fulfillment of scripture. They don't refute scripture, they only fulfill it. What is that scripture that said, once thou hast turnest away, we find out that you are even more hardened, and whatever that scripture says. Yeah. There's no way Joseph Smith could have seen this social phenomenon coming.
Yes, Joseph Smith said this. He said once people leave the church, they become, frothing enemies of it. And so if you're formerly religious.
By the way, welcome to the Clip Club, where they want to make you look like a bunch of ex-Scientologists. You know what I'm saying? They just say anybody that left is just, what did you say, a frothing?
No. I don't know what the quote is. But Joseph Smith said, it seems when people leave the church, they go crazy and they hate us.
It is uniquely toxic. Like ex-wives are not this toxic towards ex-husbands. Ex-Catholics are not this toxic towards church.
Ex-Muslims.
Yes. No, it's a uniquely toxic environment. Yes.
Nothing quite like it. So if you're formerly religious, if you've left a religion, that is associated with the highest obsessive compulsive and scrupulous symptoms. The highest propensity towards mental health is associated with toxic perfectionism. Then if you're atheist or agnostic, that's also kind of high. Then you get a little bit better if you believe in God, but you don't have a religion. Then another religion outside of Christianity or Latter-day Saint is lower. Other Christians are pretty low. And the lowest, the religion, the category with the least amount of toxic perfectionism, boy, you're never going to guess, is Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Look at that, man.
Yep. The lowest. They exhibited the least amount of symptoms associated with toxic perfection scales, obsessive compulsive disorder, and scrupulosity. Latter-day Saints.
Wow. That is just incredible.
Yeah, brutal. Latter-day Saints and other religions were statistically more likely to have low levels of toxic perfectionism, this is from the article, than atheists, agnostics, and former Latter-day Saints.
Now, did they say what it is uniquely about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that makes it so that we have better mental health, less toxic perfectionism, or anything like that? I have my ideas myself, but did they explicitly state any?
No, what he was trying to get at is young people, is why are mental health problems on the rise? And he states in the article, in his study, he says this is kind of the chicken and the egg, right? It's young people have
no, but is it? Because chicken and the egg just insinuates time, but the environment doesn't change. And in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I swear we are the last institution on earth where you physically brush shoulders with each other and touch each other, shake each other's hand, and actually have a physical community. Social media has maintained some communities, but they're generally digital. What has meant to bring us together has actually separated us. And you look at the stats of grandparents, for example. Grandparents, especially men, if they lose their wife later on in life, the difference in longevity of grandparents that touch their grandchildren physically every day.
Oh, sure.
Even if it's just a hug or just a high five, those that can touch their grandchildren every day have such higher life expectancy than those that don't, because separation causes anxiety, it causes stress, and togetherness doesn't. And despite all of its flaws, and on this show we talk about myriad flaws that the modern church has. Principal among them, the incompetence of the church office building. You know who you are, but we'll talk. But you're too lazy to call. So no, I'm just kidding. But despite the church's myriad problems, one of them that it does very well is eschew all other identities except for those of children of God, push those to the forefront, and then incentivize people to act upon those most noble aspirations and those most noble identities first and foremost to everything else. Even reciting tropes such as, I shouldn't even say tropes, I should say adages that no success outside of the home can compensate for failure inside the home, and so on and so forth, right?
Well, and this is what the researchers think they're zeroing in on, is that the scale is informative, but it's actually a little deceptive, because what you could also just map this right onto devotion. How devoted are you to a community, a church, a faith larger than yourself, an idea larger than yourself or your family? You could map it right on there. Remember, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are the most religious people in America. They attend church the longest, the most frequently.
Even more than Orthodox Jews?
They're yes. Remember, we did this episode. They're the most.
Oh yeah, in terms of hours, because we got the Tuesday night and then we got the Thursday night. But it has to be in the same ballpark though, bro.
Sure.
Go like tonight. It's Friday night. Okay? Tonight, go to Westwood in Los Angeles. Go to Brentwood. Go to Wilshire Boulevard. Some of the biggest cities. This is Ben Shapiro territory. All right. You know what I'm saying? Like, just, you will see devotion like you ain't never seen since you hung out in Brooklyn Heights, you know? So, but Shabbat is its own 24 hours. And I guess you could say, I don't know, the church is really divested from the amount of time spent at the church. I guess I would need to know the definition of how they measure devotion, because that surprises me. But anyway, keep going.
We did this with Devin G. Pope. Go back and watch that episode. Devin G. Pope.
Okay.
He is a ice in his veins economist.
Okay.
Who looked at cell phone data to determine who were the most
I forgot.
devoted in their religion.
Yes, you're right.
Latter-day Saints blew everybody away. They are legit religious.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
So you could kind of map this on that. You could kind of say, well, is it their faith in particular, or is it just that they're devoted to a community, to family? That's another thing they say, is that family's huge for mental health. Yeah. And so if you're a former Latter-day Saint who has told your whole family that they're evil and you never want to speak to them again, you know, and you've run away,
which is really only the cry bully version. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then you can expect that's going to be associated with some mental health problems. The same thing with any former religion. Remember, you're leaving the faith of your family, and that by itself is going to kind of hurt your community and your sense of belonging, and so that's gonna kind of hurt. But what they found is the complete opposite of the stereotype. That the more religious you are, and if you're a Latter-day Saint, you are far less likely to have symptoms associated with toxic perfectionism. Debunked. Wow. It is not true. The opposite is true.
This is incredible. So any other finer granular details of like things we could augment to maybe even improve the mental health of members of the church?
Yes. So
to keep doing what we do well, like half of life is trying to improve the things that you suck at, but the other half of life and success in life is augmenting the things you're good at, right? How would we augment this?
So they said, this is farther down in the study, right around page 28. He says, this research suggests that people who regularly watch Ward Radio have a greater propensity towards more solid mental health. And it says, in contrast, among Latter-day Saints, those who regularly watch or listen to Faith Matters have lower mental health. I'm just reading the article. I'm just reading what Dr. Goodman has said. Okay.
I was going to say Dr. Goodman seems to be a big fan here. Wow. And then percentage of disaffiliation by levels of perfection in between 14 and 18 years old, which is obviously a prime time for mental illness to sit in. Man, there are some serious graphs and flowcharts. I know you're a big fan of graphs and flowcharts, my man. So this is just an overwhelming amount of data that covers everything from church attendance to age group, dare I say age group progression. This is some really, really interesting stuff. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought this to my attention. So anything else before we jam, my man? Anything else?
The last thing is, please go check out our cell phone data episode about religiosity, and make sure you go listen to the Ward Radio Women. They discussed one particular anti-Mormon, Belissa Schmenbel, who has high scrupulosity. She has severe mental health problems and puts herself up as an apostle of leading people away from that horrible, toxic church. And the irony could not be thicker. But our girls did a great job dissecting her biography and talking about how it's quite the opposite with toxic perfectionism. Go check them out and go to church. Call your mom. Get involved with the church. It's better for your mental health, if nothing else. Also, it happens to be true. So
that's always a fringe benefit. That's some
fringe
of
benefit.
The cohesive gel that keeps the social fabric together, right?
Right.
One more reminder here. Thank you very much to our dear friend and listener, Stripling Boomer, who just gifted us, as we said previously, For Brittany the Shadow. Keep it charged and in the studio. No, I got the wrong one. Sorry, we got two gifts off our Amazon wish list here, and I'm doing the shout out for the wrong one.
They buy her a charge cord?
Yeah, they bought her a power bank. Yes, we have two different gifts that came in today. A power bank, which literally says, For Brittany the Shadow, keep it charged in the studio. So now Brittany the Shadow has a power bank that she will be using
No excuse, Brittany.
On the next live stream. Also, a gift for you. It says, pencils are retro, but this sharpener is futuristic. I actually, my regular pencil sharpener broke that I use to take a lot of my notes around the studio. So I put up a pencil sharpener on the wish list. And This thing is awesome. The Amazon Basics pencil sharpener. I mean, this is one of those ones where you could stab your friend and it would do some serious damage. So anyway, thank you very much, Stripling Boomer, for your contribution to the Ward Radio Wigwam. This generosity does not go overlooked, guys. If you want to contribute to the channel, please make sure that you guys check out wardradio.com, where we have all kinds of cool links to the Ward Radio merch that is available there. Also back in stock are very popular War in Heaven veteran hats. If you're a person of means, please consider a contribution through Zelle or through Venmo. And while you're on the website, you might as well sign up for the newsletter. If that doesn't do it for you, please make sure you check out the Amazon wish list. Links will be in the description. As always, for this and more, please make sure you check us out at wardradio.com.